Court will come to order. I'm Bob Stern, as most of you know. And first, as a sort of an icebreaker, I'll explain I'm not dressed quite in the attire that I would if I were in a courtroom. My wife and I just moved back to, or not back to, we moved to Norfolk, and I have to drive to Norfolk today, and I'm on my way to pick up the Christmas tree that I bought about 5 years ago from Wilkinson's for 10 pounds, which was sitting in a pot in the back garden. And my wife, who is Catholic, said, "It's okay, we'll get another one, don't worry about it. I'm Jewish. I don't normally celebrate the holiday, but I like that tree. I want that tree, so I'm going to try and fit it into a Honda Jazz and with my luggage and drive back to Norfolk this afternoon and see if I can get there." And so this is my Christmas tree attire. ICJ. I've said this before. About 1993, give or take, a man named David Williams, who was the chairman of the board of Thyman in The Hague, he came to me and he said, "Look, you're a lawyer." I was a teacher at Tassus, of course, at the time, but I had been a lawyer. I'm still a lawyer, actually, and I've been a lawyer, practicing lawyer for about 20 years until 1990. He said, "I want to do an ICJ. It's part of the United Nations. I want this to be as realistic as possible in my MUN and our MUN. And would you do it?" And I said to myself, I don't know what the ICJ is. I really didn't. But being a little bit arrogant, I said, I'll figure it out. And I did like a good student. I researched, and I learned about it, and I wrote a procedural manual called my brief. It started out to be 8 pages. It's now 16 pages of very small print for the students. And I did my first one in 1993, and it was quite successful, fortunately. And I continue to do them each year and still do. I started up one in, I'm trying to think, in Johannesburg, and one in Beijing, and other forums. And then when I retired in 2013 from Tassus, I put out the hue and cry and said I would like to do as many as I can. And I do 6 or 7 a year. My next one is next month in Singapore, and I go to wonderful places like Dublin and Turkey and Greece and Germany and of course Royal Russell and The Hague, among others. And for me, it's a wonderful experience because I still get to work with students. The students get to hone every skill. This is I think what's important about the program is students, of course, take their classes. They get a great deal out of their classes, but they usually want something that is practical, where you can put all your skills together and do something that feels very realistic using everything you've learned. And they do. This program requires good reading comprehension, writing skills, speaking, debating, analyzing, the whole gamut. And they're busy, and they'll tell you they're busy. From the minute we open up the courtroom until the case is finished, they're on the go, and they have to be very attentive, just like a judge does. I teach them certain skills, like how I would take notes. Taking notes is important to remember, of course, what's transpired, because in a courtroom, evidence is flying about and statements are being made, and you just can't remember everything. Plus, it keeps you awake, which is something I learned as a student. It kept me attentive if I took notes, and I was very obsessive about it, so that made me not look out the window or look at the ceiling when I got bored. So they learn all kinds of skills, and I think it's very helpful. The other thing I hope they learn is preparation. Preparation is crucial. Good preparation is everything. It doesn't matter what the verdict is, and I say that in this case as well. The vote was a little one-sided, but that doesn't mean that one set of advocates was better than another, because that's not the case. Both sets of advocates were terrific and kept the judges very busy and presented their evidence in a perfect manner. The witnesses were well prepared, and that's the way life is. You don't win them all. You wish you could, but you don't. And if you dwell on it, if you dwell on what you consider to be a loss, then it messes up the next case and the next case and the next case. You do the best you can, you're well prepared, you give your client their day in court, and then next Monday you get another case on your desk. And that's what you do for 40 years. And I tell the kids, because usually they're pretty tired after this experience, I say, this is the first day of the rest of your life. 40 more years of this. One case after another, and that's the way life works. Just be prepared. Do your best. That's all anybody can ask for you, from you. So, and they do. And this group was terrific, as they all are. This group was particularly adept at spotting the issues. They were concentrated well. It was great, and I'm very proud of all of them. And those of you who are advisors to these guys should be very proud of the work that they did. It was wonderful, quite frankly. Judges, advocates, officers who were also judges, they did a great job. So what I'm gonna do now is turn it over to the president, Nicholas, and Nicholas is going to read to you the majority opinion, and then that should do it. I've already had my closing with them, and I've shaken everybody's hand to say thank you and a good job done, and it was a really good job done. And I hope I'll see some of the students again at another program and in the future. And many of these kids will go, because of this, will want to go into law or international relations. And I get lots of emails from students who I've had do this program from years ago, of course, 1993, 4 or 5, and they're practicing lawyers or they're involved in government politics in some way, shape, or form, and that's wonderful. And those that aren't, I have two, one from this school, one who wants to be a neuroscientist, wherever Maria is, and one who wanted to be a neuroscientist and is studying that at Yale, and they say that ICJ was very, very helpful. The one thing I do want to say is thanks, before I turn it over to Nicholas, speaking of that, of saying thank you, of course, to Simon Giebel-Elliott. Are you here, Simon? For having, for inviting me and the faith in the program. And of course to his associate, Sue Tanner, who I can't do this without a good admin. And she's terrific. She's wonderful. To Mr. Hutchinson, who has extended the invitation, and to Mandy Tanner, who keeps me on track, and then, she greets me and then keeps me on track while I'm here. So I thank everybody who's involved in this program. Royal Russell has a very fine MUN program. It is a fine school. Okay, Nicholas, yes. You read the judgment.
The International Court of Justice, after due deliberation regarding the application by the Marshall Islands in the proceedings of Marshall Islands versus India, Pakistan, and the United Kingdom, whereas the parties stipulated the following facts, of which there were 31 stipulations. The court makes the following findings of fact and or law. Whereas Pakistan and India are in breach of Security Council Resolution 1172 of June 6, 1998. Whereas according to Article 51 of the UN Charter, Pakistan and India have no right to declare self-defense as a justification for nuclear deterrence. Whereas the fact that countries can withdraw from the Non-Proliferation Treaty will be considered as customary international law, which the court defines as international obligations arising from established state practice, as opposed to obligations arising from formal written international treaties. Whereas there is no substantial evidence of the United Kingdom reaching the NPT, as there was insufficient evidence and transparency in determining a breach of the NPT with regard to Article 6, which relates to the cessation of nuclear arms. Whereas customary law in relation to Resolution 1172 supersedes the national sovereignty of both India and Pakistan. Whereas India and Pakistan have a first use policy against against each other concerning indiscriminate weapons, and therefore are in violation of Articles 35 and 51 of the Geneva Convention. Therefore, the International Court of Justice orders, adjudges, and decrees that 1. The applicants have met the burden of proof regarding its cause of action against the respondents. 2. India and Pakistan must hold to the production of fissile material as well as discontinue their nuclear testing programs. 3. India and Pakistan shall enter into negotiations as soon as possible, overseen by the United Nations Office for Disarmament Affairs, with other relevant member nations regarding the question of nuclear weapons and the cessation of the nuclear arms race. India and Pakistan shall allow the United Nations Office for Disarmament Affairs access to their nuclear weapons programs and provide any and all information relating to them. 5. India and Pakistan shall promote the universal adoption and full implementation of multilateral treaties regarding nuclear weapons and disarmament. The judgment was 10 judges for the majority opinion, and with that said, 17 judges for the opinion, while we had 2 judges dissenting. We had 3 separate but concurring opinions by 3 separate parties, and all in all, the case went very well.
If there are any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. If the members of the court have anything they want to add, they're welcome to. I can just tell you that the judges spent over 4 hours, and I mean 4 hours in a row, there were very few breaks, discussing the evidence in this case, and regardless of the final decision, the advocates had given them so much to think about, and it was just based on the evidence, had nothing to do necessarily with the quality of the presentation, both sides were excellent, absolutely excellent. Any questions?
I do want to say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have been working with Mr. Stern for 3 years, once as a judge, once as registrar, and then finally as president of the ICJ here at Roy Russell. And I believe all of us here can say that he has given us an amazing opportunity, and we have all been changed by this experience, and we will remember it for years to come. And particularly me, because I've worked with you on multiple occasions, I feel that you have been instrumental in showing me what I want to do in my life and pointing the way for me. And I think on behalf of all of us, I would just like to say thank you so much for doing this, and I think all of us here should give him a round of applause.
Hello, I'm the Deputy President of the ICJ, and someone we don't thank enough is the President. Nicholas has done so much. We started this summer, he still had school and he worked, and we worked all summer long. And the first thing he told me when I arrived is, I hope it goes well, I'm so stressed. And I think that it really showed he was passionate about the case, and he really helped both sets of advocates and the judges. And we were really lucky to have him as a president, so he deserves a lot of thanks too.
Anything else, folks? Any questions? Any comments?
Well, this isn't a question, and I don't mean to piggyback on Nicholas's fine words, but we also just want to add our thanks to what Nicholas said. Obviously, from the point of view of participants and observers, we all really enjoy this programme at this school. So as a small token of our thanks from Royal Russell,
Thank you.
and I think another round of applause for Bob for all the work he does with me.
Tram going down. I can see them now. Anything else, folks? If not, then everyone's excused, and my gratitude, of course, to all the people, all the kids that I've worked with. It's been terrific. Okay, thanks. I hope